Back in meeting, thank you very much. A well-timed adjournment often be a wonderful thing. And while we were buying our coffee, Amanda all were very, very busy, and I'm going to ask for them.
So what we've reached is that we do have the ability to be able to amend or vary the proposed recommendations. To allow us to progress with the work to a certain point in time. That will allow us then, councillors then to then make a decision as to whether you adopt the bylaw. But it'll allow us to work to continue at least. There is a small risk because of the working with Masterton. It may delay some timelines a little bit. I think it's a worthwhile piece of exploration to do. And the other small component of the risk is around the cost, because whilst we've actually received the money from MB, it's obviously good to take Emma and the team a little bit of time and some work to get us to that point in time. And then if councillors elect not to actually adopt the bylaw, then the question might be whether MB would want me back for the time spent to that point in time. The benefit of the approach of Masterton is that the involvement of Masterton actually reduces our costs somewhat as well.
Can I just ask then that so Masterton also has any funding?
No.
So they will be paying separately. Yeah, no, I just think that's a concern because Wairarapa has already started working on it. We're using the MB funding for it. If we then look at amalgamating and we want to go ahead with it, but they don't, what still becomes for the Southland that.
I think this proposal to vary the current recommendations will, regardless, allow us to get into a point in time where you're able to decide whether or not you want despite Masterton. Would that be fair to say, Amanda?
Yeah.
So regardless of whether Masterton is involved or not, it will allow us to move forward with these.
Yeah, I just have some concerns. That's all. That it would also be slowing us down significantly.
Not significantly.
Not significantly.
Couple of months, maybe. 9 for 2.
We have to deliver the work by December.
Yeah.
No, thanks, Your Worship, and I'm pleased that we've had this vote. However, I'm very much in favour of the recommendations that have been put forward to us today because it will set some direction for council officers and for consultants basically to go ahead and do the work that they need to do. I don't see any alternative other than the bylaw, to be quite honest, and my thinking is slightly different than the rules as Worship. But I believe that the recommendations are really what we should be agreeing or disagreeing to. So otherwise, we'll just the outcome won't change.
I understand that we're doing an alternative recommendation. Is that correct?
Quite, but it is literally just to get it to the point where you then decide whether to adopt a bylaw. What these initial recommendations are saying is that you're actually saying that a bylaw is needed at this point in time. So that's the difference.
So we've got the steps in this process are determining you've got an issue and you need bylaw. The bylaw is the right mechanism. That's the first step. The next step would be to develop a consultation document that you then go out for formal consultation, much like we did with the planning plan. Now you can do the determination just before you adopt a consultation document against each other, not particularly in the same meeting. But it's just giving you an opportunity to have the discussion and to understand what's going on rather than doing those two at the same time. The risk is you might not determine, and we've done a whole lot of work to get us to the point of a consultation document, which is exactly what Paul was saying. We would have done a whole lot of work and then you potentially determine, don't need a bylaw.
So I think what we'll do is we'll come to the recommendation, but start with the proceeding. report. Then we'll come to determine that it is necessary. If that vote loses, then we will discuss the alternative. So I move that we receive the Freedom Camping bylaw development and determination report. I have a second. I thank you, Councillor Nader. Anybody else?
I would like to say, for myself, so the Māori Standing Committee is on board and working through this as well. And one of the main things with regards to freedom camping is the fact that they nearly always camp near waterways. Now, our water has its own wairua and is very, very important. And that's why I believe that there is a need for a bylaw, because a lot of the time what they were finding out towards Tora and places like that was just use toilet papers to spin thrown down and things like that, and there was nothing, no one there that was able to actually, no one really enforce it. So it's like places around our coastal areas and things when it comes to freedom camping, just to be able to say, you know, these are the spots that we've got. And I think that's what we're really talking about when it comes to education. I think it's really important. So yeah, I would like to reiterate with Councillor Olds that I do actually believe that there is a need for this, and that I'd really like to look at the draft once it goes through.
Any other comments? Okay, we'll put the recommendation that we received the report. All in favour, say aye. Not read. Then no. So now we'll move on to recommendations 2 and 3. The first one being that we determine that it is necessary to make a bylaw, and that we request for chief executive to develop it. Do I have a mover for those two? I do. Councillor Mayo, Councillor Holt seconding it. Would you like to speak in favour?
Just with regards to what I pretty much said, you know, my main concerns, and I think that covered in number 2, you know, protecting the area and it's actually protecting the health and safety of the area and the people who visit it. To me, that's how I look at it, as it's actually looking after the health and well-being of all of those.
Yeah, I just see council as being a regulatory authority, and therefore we need to give our officers some level of power in terms of managing our camping and coastal reserves, and the only way they can really do that, freedom camping across the district, is in the bylaw replace them.
Anybody else who speak for or against? Yes, Councillor Woodcock.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I understand the point of having these bylaws in place to an extent, but I would like more information on how many times with the old bylaw that's now obsolete, the coastal one, and that Colin helped design, how many times did that get used? How many times were people prosecuted, etc., because I do see it as a huge cost on the ratepayer, and wonder if actually having the bylaw actually makes any benefit, or are we better off having an educational type approach to this rather than a bylaw?
You've got a right to reply to second.
Yeah, but I just start with
Any other comments? I too would vote against it, because I agree with Councillor Woodcock that, for example, the capacity and the ability to be educated, to inform people, help people make decisions, does not require a bylaw. There are other ways we can help, and I think some of the other ways are actually more positive in terms of getting people on side with us. I believe the paper doesn't cover the cost properly on that particular option, but it doesn't cover the cost of any of the options either. And I think that it's just bad policy for our community to accept any paper discussion that doesn't elaborate satisfactorily on what are the costs of these proposals. But equally, what are the risks? And bylaws do have risks. Some bylaws end up costing us a lot of money. And as Councillor Woodcombe said, there's only one source of money at the end of the day. So that's where I always stand. Councillor Lee.
While we're having this discussion, are we able to modify the recommendation or add an amendment to ask for that cost benefit? What to be done to be put towards us, or put to us?
Well, the answer is yes. And that's why I suggested that if a majority of people are happy with 2 and 3, then there's no effective in the point. But that's why I said let's do a vote on 2 and 3. If it carries, it carries, they settle. If it's not, then we'll come back and pick up your suggestion. Some your second.
Yeah, no, thanks very much. And I've listened to a few people speaking. Education is really, really important. It's part of what we do as a council, and we're educating people, as well as having an enforcement at the end of the day if people choose not to be educated. And I think that's the key element. It's the same with policing, and I would agree. A lot of the work that police do, for instance, is an educational role. But when things go wrong and people don't pick up on that, then obviously that enforcement action is necessary, and it's generally a last resort that it becomes necessary. And I don't think without the teeth of a bylaw, the educational role as a standalone role wouldn't really achieve a good outcome for coastal communities and certainly for African people.
I'm going to abstain on this because there's issues over some of the state for this reason. But I would just make a general comment about education, and I'm sure I totally recognise that. And exactly what you said, that education only works when there is a need. And not only that, the bylaws that we have in these areas, whether it's a bylaw or a law within society, that's not only just for the education, but it's also to give the educator, and sometimes it's the police, in our case it would be our enforcement officers, the tools in which, and the protection of law, to go out and educate you. Because we see a lot of times that our enforcement officers may well go out there and don't have a legal protection for to do this sort of thing, they are at risk. Because this sort of act requires protection, and that's how our police work. They have the protection of law. And that's what we're talking about, not only just protecting our flora and fauna, but also protecting our very staff who have to go out and educate our public. So that's general comment.
I think that we need to be thinking about cost in relation to freedom. We need to be very mindful of the cost, both financially and to the environment, if we don't have rules and bylaw in place. Because unfortunately, and it's, I'm sure it's only a percentage of, but as we've seen many times before, there are elements that freedom can, that do not clean up after themselves, do not use toilet facilities as we might hope. And so the cost of cleaning up, if we do not have a bylaw in place, I think will be up very, very quickly. So I think whilst we're thinking about cost, we need to think about what it costs.
Councillor Maynard.
No, I think I understand what you're saying there, Woody. I think Melissa's really hit the nail on the head there. Just with what she said regarding the additional costs that then come back to council anyway, having to clean up those areas. We see it all the time with fly tipping. And so, and this is just this bylaw is just in a way to be able to make sure that people, you know, leave places where they find them, and it gives our officers the protection, I guess, just to be able to say, oh, yeah, I'm really sorry, guys, but this is just our bylaw, so we can move you on, you know, in a non-aggressive way. I don't believe that I don't even know, I don't even believe that council ever had to prosecute anyone when the bylaw was there, because by being able to say there was the bylaw, you were able to go, and I believe it's there, but I'll double check that up.
Oh. You go, Russell.
We've had the right to reply.
Oh, yeah,
We have to go to the vote, and the vote is, we're putting 2 and 3 together that we determine it is necessary to make a bylaw, and that we request the chief executive to develop one. So all in favour, please say aye. No. And abstaining. 1, thank you. I didn't quite hear, Councillor Whitcock, where you did vote, but
I'm against.
okay, so that's 3 against, so that's carried. Thank you, Councillor. Actually, I thought that was excellent debate. I think
Good reasons for it.
yeah, I think that's the sort of standard that we should be aiming at. Now, we now come to
Thank you so much, ladies, for all your information, really, really appreciate it.
the next is the grants policy, I think. Am I right? Yeah, so Councillor Rolfe, would you like to introduce the grants policy?
I'm quite happy to do that, and it's been a lot of work done by council officers on here, and from Amanda's team, and I think we quite like to just pass it over to Amanda to speak to it.
Thank you, Councillor Olds and Mayor Martin. So as in the covering paper, the grants policy was reviewed not so long ago, but when I started, we've done a lot of work with community groups. They were telling us it was very confusing. We were getting a lot of inquiry about which grant should they apply for, which community, or should they go to, how do they determine which is the most appropriate grant. So we started to do a bit of work around what could a revised grants policy look like, and this was under the last training. We got to now thinking to the first policy and strategy working group, and at that point, Councillor Olds was put his hand up to say, I'll work with the officers to develop a new policy. We've been to each of the community boards, been to the Māori Standing Committee, and we held a public session that invited all applicants to all grants to participate in. We've had some feedback both in that session and via email. All the feedback has been very supportive of this new approach. That's been positive. We have made some changes that are outlined in the report. One of them is that we've got a very good new template that we're working to, which makes our policies all consistent with a very clear, simple purpose, separating policy out from process, and it makes it easy for people that know where to go to find how to do it. The other big thing that's happened in this policy, and it's the first one that we've done like this, is that we've included our whakatauki, and we've included translations of the headings. That was a reasonably low cost thing that we've been able to do, thanks to some awareness contacts, and we've worked really closely with the Māori Standing Committee on making sure that the tone of the policy meant that it was applicable for everyone, particularly for Māori. There is an addition that we'd like to make that isn't currently in the policy. It was picked up on Friday, and that is in the Māori Standing, because we used to have like 7 application forms. We want to go down to 1 application form. In the Māori Standing Committee application form, we did miss one element that was in that form that we'd like to bring into the policy, and it is, let me find my email. Okay, so email just that section to me. So in section 1.1, where it says additional criteria for council administered funds, 1.1.1 would be Māori Standing Committee, or it might be renumbered. My email, I don't know. To be eligible, applicants must be able to demonstrate their connection to South Wairarapa through whakapapa or family connection, or how their activity will benefit the South Wairarapa Māori and non-Māori community. So that was something that they had. It's a little bit different. We didn't pull through. That we think is very valuable to pull through in the Māori Standing Committee, highlight that we should.
Would you add that?
That would go on the additional criteria for council administered funds, it would say Māori family.
Point one,
Oh,
six,
point one.
yeah,
That comes-
page 189.
Yeah, sorry, it comes through when, okay, it's reading to one, which is right, obviously, but it's not one. So then you've got creative communities for rural New Zealand. And I think this is a really,
Can I just clarify? In here, you've got George Payne and back to the Payne Farm to the then Borough Council, now the SWDC. I'm a little bit confused because I've got, that's the Martinborough Community Board.
it's actually delegated to the council.
So when was that done?
That's
Because it used to be the Martinborough Community Board, yeah.
if you look at the determination, from the High Court, it's very clearly council.
But for the grants, that all has to come to the Martinborough Community Board. Yes.
So I haven't got Katie on the end of the phone.
I did question Katie.
So we have been with the Martinborough Community Board on it, and we're going to do that once.
Yeah, but this is for Payne Farm income distribution.
We have a lot, hold on.
It's on 6.1.3.
You'll find this a separate policy for Payne Farm.
We're going to keep it separate.
Yeah.
For Martinborough.
Yeah. But I think this wording and everything would make people think they have to come to the South Waitanapa District Council.
Does say,
Oh, right.
does say the funding distribution, it must be a benefit to the residents.
Of Martinborough, which is why it sits with the Martinborough Community Board, but up the top it says that it sits with the South Waitanapa District Council.
So I was just wondering as to whether that last sentence, any funding distribution from Payne Farm must be for the benefit of residents of Marlborough. Just wondering about adding a bit in there about distribution, is funding distribution is managed or recommendations are made by community board two.
So I've just got it from Katie, she's that's straight from the High Court ruling, so we're taking exactly the view from the High Court ruling. And then we will have a separate Payne Farm income distribution policy.
Okay.
So just to clarify, sort of my own understanding, so what the High Court have said is that the overall Payne Farm management is with us, the New South Wales District Council, but the grants is delegated to the Martinborough Community.
And that's in the terms of reference, and it's delegated and so
So Martinborough Community will very much in charge
Of the distribution of the that's not. Like,
So separate.
yeah, but that's, you go to the council, you don't have to go to the Martinborough Community.
Well, it is
So
that
it's
council,
it's like
same
confusing.
thing, same.
Yeah.
My comment, comes about because of my membership of the Maori Standing Committee. And the Maori Standing Committee were asked, are you happy for a single grant application for also be used by the Maori Standing Committee? The Maori Standing Committee said no. And it looks on at face value as if we're now going to force them to use the same application form that everybody else is using. Could you comment, please?
yes, we can check the resolution or any agreement that was done by the Maori Standing Committee, but I think they were unsure and wanted us to work with them, which we have done. So Narita, Leanne and Katie all met last week and went over it at great depth. Andrea has emailed back and said that she's happy with the approach that we've taken as well.
Fortunately, Andrea may be the chair, but she is not the committee. And I think-
Check the resolution,
Yes, please.
we'll take a few minutes.
Okay, well, let's talk amongst ourselves. I don't know if there's any great.
It was over on the last one.
I think there was a second one previously. But I think everybody had a second one previously.
Yes, there were seven.
Yeah.
7 different applications.
Which is possibly. Yes.
Yes, I am so looking for travel, I had 198. Under the distribution of grants, got Martinborough and it's got Martinborough Community Board of 1,000, and then underneath that, it's got Payne Farm Fund, community parks, grounds, facilities, under Martinborough Community Board, so it's. That's correct. Yes, it's articulated in the what you it's not the text here.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think
Possibly, Councillor Elam, you can just come out there. I'd understood that the paint proceeds would be the reason to basically sort of young people.
The youth,
Benefit of children.
but the children,
Because they,
not none for residents, I don't know where that's come from.
no, I don't.
And you're saying that that's from the law and that was not illegal.
In the paying, hold on. Okay, it's taken directly from the High Court.
Yeah.
ruling. It's taken exact, that the income from trust lands should be used.
Not just things.
I think that's what the, I think
That-
that
that
should be, that the trust lands.
Sorry, I'm getting,
Sorry, but should be used in maintaining and improving the borough's parks, sports grounds, camping ground, swimming bars, providing equipment and maintaining sports facilities and the children's playground in such a manner and in such proportion as the council may from time to time decide. That is taken from exactly the word from the High Court ruling. That's the wording we always use.
Katie is online and can talk to the Māori Standing Committee, and Leanne as well.
Yes. Hi, everyone. Good morning. Just to touch base about the MSC application form. We did meet with them a few months back, which Mayor Connolly was referring to in a workshop, which we did with all the community boards and requested some feedback. At that time, there was some conversation around whether we should continue to have 2 application forms or if it would be better suited as 1 application form. With some back and forth with the committee, there was no resolution made at that point, just agreement to continue to work with them on either creating a separate application form or creating an application form that what felt more inclusive. So once we had met with all the community boards, we went back to MSC via email and through Leanne and her work with Andrea as well, and had decided that having 1 application form that felt inclusive for all members of the community would be the approach to take. You'll notice that the application form now is quite different than the previous application form and incorporates quite a few components that were signaled to be important by the Māori Standing Committee. So this policy in draft and the application form was emailed out to them a few weeks back with no feedback received other than agreement from a few of the members that they were happy with the way that it was and they were excited about our policy work moving forward to be more inclusive as a whole, as opposed to having 2 separate forms for Māori and non-Māori.
Okay, thank you very much. So, let's come to the single recommendations that we adopt as district council's ground policy. You moving in, Councillor Hall? Thank you. We have a second, please. Councillor Sabafooter. Are there any other comments anyone wishes to make at this stage? Okay, we'll put it to the vote. All in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Okay, thank you, buddy. Thank you. Okay, and that is carried. That was aye.
He was just a bit delayed.
What do you for or against then?
4, mate.
So now we come to information reports from the Chief Executive. And the first one is the representation review. I suspect this Bradley. If not, we need to go.
We've got another one, apologies.
A critical piece of work, council. It's going to take place over quite a period of time, and will run in parallel with our long-term plan discussions. But I'm going to allow Amanda to speak to it in more detail.
So this has been part of in our long-term plan. We committed to a representation review. A representation review obviously has to happen every 6 years under legislation. You have to do one. Our last one was in 2018. Those of you who lived in the community at that time would probably be aware of The contention, I guess, it raised in the context of should we have a Māori seat or not? And at the time it was determined that we wouldn't. The amount of work that goes into determining whether or not you have a Māori seat is significant. And I think the reasoning at that point in time was that there wasn't the opportunity and the timeframe to have that deep embedded conversation. Now we've got that opportunity. The legislation has also changed so that Māori seats are not reliant on a poll that would that basically forces the council to accept or not accept a Māori seat. So that's one of the big differences that we've got in legislation in this context. Leanne and Nikki both attended some training a few weeks back that LG&Z ran on running a representation review. So they both have a much better understanding of what the processes that we're going to have to go through. And you'll see in the report that there's a few different opportunities with dates to make key decisions. And so this report is really giving you a heads up on those dates and that some of these decisions, the kind of options and forks that you can take that basically end up in different places. So the first one is around whether or not we use STB or first past the post. I know we had a brief conversation about that recently, I think, in the workshop, and that has to be done in September, I believe. So that will be the first decision that you'll have to make regarding the presentation review. Nikki and Leanne have already engaged with the Māori Standing Committee and have worked out when they're going to have a workshop to look at the process for a Māori seat in particular and Māori representation more broadly. So we're already going down that route of engaging with them on this issue.
Oh, and we've got Nikki on board in case we get, and Leanne again, in case we get
Big questions that I might not know, and they might.
So if we follow the timetable,
Yes.
that's here, we get everything sorted out by about April 2025, which basically now gives several months until the next election. And that's thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess this consideration has to be given right across the board in terms of representation and how we move forward in the future. But we're also going through some local government reform conversations at the moment, which are in their infancy.
Yeah.
And I'm I'm conscious about how we look at the future of local government, for instance, from a Wairarapa perspective, as against their representation, and how the two can be integrated together in those conversations. And you've obviously thought about this, I'm sure you have, as well. So I know that it's business as usual because it's a 6-year time frame that we have to do to look at representation review, but times have changed, and we now have conversations around local government reform. I think it's important that we capture those in the conversation.
Yep, and I think absolutely, and that's one of the difficulties that we have, and I think it's a similar difficulty with the long-term plan and water reform.
Yes,
we've got two things happening in parallel that are both legislated by central government, and we're going to have to be nimble and flexible in our thinking about how we respond to these things. I think we have to do this by legislation, so whether or not we look different in the future and how different we look in the future. I think if you've done the work with the community and you have an understanding of what the community wants, it sets you up really well to advocate for any future changes in a different kind of framework, whatever that might look like. Potential amalgamation is something that has been talked about in the media, for example. If the three councils determined that they did want to amalgamate and we had a Māori seat, councils didn't or did have Māori seats, that gives a bit of a picture around what the representation should look like going forward. We're the only council, for example, that has community boards. is community boards something we still want? In a future state, would there be an expectation that we hold on to community boards? That amalgamation process, if it happened, would have to consider all of that. And I think if we've been through a robust process, it would help give us a picture of what we wanted South Wairarapa representation. That's
Thanks, Henry.
So
That's my thoughts.
I think that this is not the time or the place to have detailed discussion, et cetera, et cetera. Obviously, that comes part of the process from July and August. But I do absolutely endorse that last comment that this is an ideal opportunity for people in this part of the world to express a view about how they wish to be represented. And I suspect that the answer to that may not be the same answer that it was, 6, 12, 18 years ago. One thing I would just recommend is that you, or some of us anyway, take a look at what some other councils have evolved their representation. Because we look around and see a number of other councils, some quite close to here, a different number of councils than they did 12 years ago, who have councillors decided in a different way. And I think it's quite good to just reflect that the way we're doing things is better one of the possible ways. It's not trying to have it stone. And we're quite okay, but we can come out of
And I just want to say thank you for getting this to us, because it's been like this is, we've been wanting this for ages, and it keeps saying, well, we can't start until then, and we can't, because so we missed the last election, and then it was, because things going on election. So there's always something that's going on. And we just had to do it. Like I'm just so excited that it's finally on the table, because we need to know. And I think it's so often that we think we know, but you don't know if you haven't asked the questions, and then you'll know. And we've got to get this out there to our communities and start getting all that information collated. It's not going to be a small job. So we need to do it.
I would hope that in advance of July and August, we could start the process of letting people know in a affirming sort of way that this is what we're doing, why we're doing it. I don't think to adopt this and sort of maybe the approach that we have to do with some other things in our best interest. I think we want to make sure that as many people who are interested see it as a positive opportunity, just exactly what Councillor Maynard said, and we're not rushing it. We need plenty of opportunity, and we welcome that sort of guidance. So if you be able to have a conversation.
So if I may as well.
That's your last holidays.
Well, I appreciate it. Yet again, another example of how we gain momentum on a critical piece of work by leveraging the other work that's happening at the same time. I do hold the personal view that quite often council sees independent projects, and that's why they don't always get the emphasis that they deserve. If we actually look at representation review alongside long-term plan, alongside our why we exist as an organisation, these types of discussions, they all help springboard one another, and so we make progress on it rather than trying to resource individual projects at the same time.
Right, Councillor.
Yeah, I don't know, but in the long-term plan, I think any change to an electoral system, to my mind, really requires total engagement, and not just by consultation, but actually we need to know absolutely what we and that's not only just for the voting system, but also the representation society. It's really important because this is actually how we vote our governments, and that's too important to leave as a blind thing.
And also, rural. The questions, there's the question there about, having a rural seat.
So all those things would be.
That's the, that's the other, but the other point I would make, so, and I totally agree. We need to be very mindful that, the issue of whether we are going to have 3 councils in Warren or 4 councils, 1 council, is either going to be determined by us, or it's going to be determined outside of us at the same time that we're doing this. So it's really important. Any work that we do here needs to be consistent with what the way the other councils are voting, because the last thing we want to do is actually have 3 different systems that go out for consultation here, and then all of a sudden we've got a different system, and all councils got different voting systems. So it's fine, because consistency is going to help us get across the line.
Any other councils?
I've got one going, maybe it's we don't want to hack here a little bit, but I think, you know, in 2022, 15 local authorities use STP. You could have written that in a different way instead of 2022, 62 councils went first past the post.
Yeah.
So I think, are you leading us down a particular path by the way you sometimes write these documents?
Because it used to be something in tracks on the central government, right? And that's it, that had to be used.
There's going to be lots of opportunities to these things, and the reason that we did that STV is around diversity. So those councils who use STV get more diversity around the table, and STV is the recommended approach.
This is not the time.
Okay. There was something else I was going to say about. No, I can't remember.
So do we, I'll move that we adopt the report, the second report. Even seconds it, all in favour, please say aye. Done. Right. What's happening, eh? Okay, we'll have an adjournment.